because we have got to talk about Chris Murphy. In
Oof.
fact, Tim, yes, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Chris Murphy, he's Mr. Gun Control in the Senate. He's the guy that wants to take a flamethrower that looks like this and do this to the Constitution. Yeah, he's that guy. Well, we've got some clips. We do have some clips, Tim. And I know it's early in the morning on a Thursday, but I've got to do it to you. We've got to listen to Chris Murphy talk, and I'm sorry.
I wish this Supreme Court just simply interpreted the law. But we all know that the conservative justices on that court are political figures. And some of them do have their finger up to test the political winds. And so when we do the work of building a movement to demand that citizens, not the court, decide the gun laws of this country, well, maybe, just maybe, we have an impact.
Good grief.
Interesting. Isn't that fascinating?
This is why they want a democracy that they're always rambling on about, and not a constitutional republic, because all they need is 51%, a simple majority, and they can impose their will, their tyranny on the other 49%. This is why they want to do away with the Electoral College and things like that. This is why they do everything they do. And then to say that the Republican justices are political creatures.
Right.
Excuse me?
Come again?
And he wishes they would just read the law. Hey, moron.
Exactly.
Chris Murphy, that's what they're doing. It's the Democrats that are trying to contort the law to get their political outcome that they want. The Republicans are taking a look at the document going, yeah, the Second Amendment pretty clearly says you cannot infringe this right. And the only way to undo that isn't to take a simple majority vote of the population, folks. It is to amend the Constitution, which is considerably harder. But see, they don't want that. They want to get rid of all that. They just want a simple majority. That's democracy, and that's why we don't have democracy.
Right. Not pure. And that's the big thing, Tim. And you hit on a bunch of pieces there, and I think those were all excellent pieces, but I want to set up camp on the very last part of what he just said. The citizens decide gun laws, not the judicial. Cupcake. You are a sitting senator. In one case, you know good and well that the checks and balances of our federal system makes the court correct the legislature when they supersede the founding document of the Constitution and all of our rights enshrined in said Constitution. You know good and well the judge has no ability to legislate from the bench, which, by the way, was a leftist tactic over the last 15, 20 years. But their job is to correct the legislature when they go out of bounds. And yet you're saying now that they're political creatures and the citizens should write gun laws, not the courts. It's a twofer. The citizens write gun laws through legislation, and then it gets struck down or not struck down, depending on constitutionality. This guy is placating to a very low common denominator.
And let's be clear here once again. He's accusing only the Republicans of being political creatures.
Correct.
I'm not denying that people aren't political creatures. We all are. Even though justices are supposed to be blind and only focus on the law, everybody has an opinion. It's just, can you separate your opinion from interpreting the law as written in the context that it was written? And
not making up some new way.
Right. And the Republicans, with regards to the Second Amendment, are not doing that. They're not making things up. They're literally interpreting the Second Amendment as written in the historical context that it was written in. They have added nothing to it. It's the other side that just wants to ignore the Second Amendment and go on feelings. And what? 51% what?
Well, that's why they always add in like, see that? It says a well-regulated. See, that means gun control. No, that means practiced and well-rehearsed.
That's where the context comes in.
Right. It's just like, guys, stop it. But Tim, we have even more Chris Murphy. We have two more clips. If you weren't nauseous yet, let's hit number 10.
So I've got some good news. On January 1st, a new law goes into effect in Illinois that significantly restricts the sale of high-capacity magazines and semi-automatic assault weapons. It's another state that has passed a law restricting access to these dangerous weapons, and it's going to save a lot of lives in Illinois. But it wasn't a foregone conclusion. The right wing, the gun rights groups tried to bring a case before the federal district court, the Seventh Circuit, and then the Supreme Court to get an injunction instituted, stopping the law from going into effect. And both the Seventh Circuit and, interestingly and importantly, the Supreme Court declined to issue that injunction. The Seventh Circuit said that the restriction on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines was very much in keeping with legislation that's been passed all around the country.
Talk about
Doesn't matter.
completely misrepresenting what actually took place.
100%. And also, it doesn't matter. The big payoff. See, it's in line with all the other infringements, so we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not.
And basically what he's saying is like, look, we won. The Supreme Court decided in our favor is what he's trying to convey here. And that's not what happened. The Supreme Court has a long-standing tradition of letting these cases work their way through the lower courts before the actual case, which wasn't one but went before them, before the actual case winds up in the Supreme Court. They let the lower courts do their jobs. They don't intervene prematurely. And that's just historically how they've behaved. That is not a decision, is not a blessing from the Supreme Court for what's going on in Illinois. I think he's going to find that out the hard way, but...
Exactly. It's like, no, keep on telling people.
But check this out, folks. This law in Illinois, when it goes into effect on January 1st, is going to save lives. How many guns did it take away? None.
How exactly?
And how many people have registered them? Nearly none.
I think it's between 0.34 and 0.6%, depending on where you look.
Oh my goodness. I mean, the man is so crazy and just sitting there outright lying about what just transpired and then gloating like he won some great victory. I can't wait till the Supreme Court slaps him down. God willing that takes place because it's going to be so funny watching his head explode.
But you know what? You know something else, and this is something that I caught, and this is completely unrelated to actually what he's saying. This is just more in the context of what he's doing. If I was a gun control advocate, I would feel demeaned if someone was talking down to me like this. Like, and what that means is, and we can do this, and then in our movement and what we're doing, and I'm like, dude, like I'm not below you. Like, talk with me. You saw something very similar with Steve Dettelbach. Remember when? Excuse me. Remember when he was at Harvard and he was talking to Harvard students about, and we have to remove the staples and Adobe, and we have to actually have someone feed that every day, great people, into the machines. I mean, it's so complicated. It's got to be face up and everything. It's just,
and the forms have two sides.
They demean them, and they're like, "Oh, look at him trying to teach me things." Man, they are peeing in your Cheerios, and they're calling it lemon juice.
I don't know if we have the I don't know if we have the soundbite of Kamala Harris talking about AI. AI. It stands for artificial intelligence. Like everybody in the audience must have been like,
does it? Does it? Well,
I think she just figured that out yesterday.
After all, Tim, we have the freedom to be and to live and to be in which live and be.
And be.
So gun control. Right. It's just so bad.
They're such idiots.
So bad. But, it's bad. It's painful. But we have one more, Chris Murphy.
Oh, man.
We have one more. This is number. I know.
All right, go ahead.
I know. You got to take a Murphy later. I know. There's an 11.
Good news that Illinois passed this law, that it's going into effect, that the Supreme Court declined to institute an injunction. And it's just more reason for us to continue to build this movement to pass gun safety laws, because it gets laws passed like we saw in Illinois, and maybe it has an impact on the future direction of the Supreme Court.
You know what I find funny?
What? No, you do. Yeah, what?
So he calls it in that clip gun safety laws, but in the previous clip he called it an assault weapons ban. So what is it? Are you banning guns or are you doing safety?
Yeah, what are we doing? What are we doing here? I would just like to point out, Tim, it's just me in the room asking for a friend, of course. Do you think it's a good idea for a senator to be advocating for the idea that citizens can influence the Supreme Court? Because I'm pretty sure that's not okay.
No, I mean, these are the same people that would go out in front of the justices' homes to harass them.
That's true.
These are the same people that Chucky Schumer stood out there and said they're going to reap the whirlwind, which was a threat to the justices of the Supreme Court. That's what they do. Yeah. This is what Marxists do. Marxists live for revolution. And in revolution, you just got to intimidate everybody around you to get what you want. We're just seeing the Marxist plot line play out all over again right here in the United States.